Welcome to Anchors Away, a podcast for boaters. As a marina owner and Freedom Boat Club franchise owner on Lake George, I get to see every day the joy that boating brings to people's lives. There's nothing like seeing the smiling faces headed out for a fun day on the water and the experiences we help provide and memories we help make as people disconnect from their busy lives and reconnect with family and friends. Our podcast features conversations with boating experts and industry leaders where we discuss things like how to get into boating, industry trends, boating destinations, tips, tricks, products, and more. From beginners to experienced boaters, we hope these conversations will inspire you to get on the water, spend more time on the water, and introduce others to the boating lifestyle. Jim Wolf is the president and CEO of Avalon and Tahoe Manufacturing. Jim grew up boating on lakes big and small throughout Michigan and still enjoys many of those same bodies of water today. Jim's grown Avalon from 70 employees to over 400 while increasing sales revenue almost 20 times from the time he took over in 2002. Their newest buzzworthy boat is the Waketoon, a pontoon designed to wake surf without using ballast. After winning the Innovation Award at the Minneapolis Boat Show, the Waketoon is poised to define a new category of boat. Jim and I spoke about growing up as a boater, how he ended up at Avalon, and some of the key engineering innovations behind the Waketoon. Enjoy. Jim, thanks so much for joining me. It's a great time to talk to you guys. You guys have been in the news with a really exciting new product development at some of the boat shows that have been happening. So I'm very happy to be talking to you now, and while you're in the news, kind of spread the word about the new Waketoon a little more. Before we get into some of the things you're working on in Avalon, I'd just love to find out a little more about your backstory and how you got into boating, and if boating was something you've been doing your whole life or kind of converted to a boater as you got into the industry.
No, I've been a boater from a young age. I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan, and we had boats growing up. Did a lot of traveling around the Great Lakes every summer. We had a 28-foot Carver, and my dad would load the whole family up, and we'd go cruise around Michigan and up into Canada and just all around the Great Lakes. So he was an avid boater, so as a young child, I got into boating.
Was he responsible for teaching you how to boat and handle a boat?
Yes. Yeah. He was very instrumental. He used to call me Ziggy because I could never keep a straight line when we were going from one point to another. So his nickname for me was Ziggy, and he was a busy guy. He was an attorney in Saginaw, Michigan. We always had like a week set aside, and inevitably there'd be storms, and that would never stop him. You know, small crap warnings, large crap. He was going to go to the next destination no matter what. So we frequently would be pulling out of a port, and people would be saying, you shouldn't go out there, and he wouldn't listen to them. So we got caught in quite a few storms. We were up in the North Channel when I was 13 or 14. I think that's when my mom made him sell the boat because we got caught in a pretty bad storm and big waves, and we were getting tossed and turned all over the place. And when we got to shore, she said, you're selling this boat and we're going to buy a cottage. So we did, looked around for a while, ended up on Walloon Lake in 1978. I was 13 years old. So I went from Great Lake, you know, the big water boating, to an inland lake, and we had a pontoon boat and we had a speedboat. It was 18-foot Checkmate with the 115 Mercury on it. So I spent most of my summers cruising around and just loved the water, got into water skiing and hydro sliding and barefooting. So I was pretty active as a younger guy on the water all the time.
Are you still active in water sports?
Not so much here lately, but I want to get back into it. I still think I could give it a run anyways. I was a pretty good slalom skier and barefooter, so I haven't done it here in probably 3 years, but it's time to get back into it.
Did you do any fishing or anything, or was it primarily water sports that was the activity that?
Yeah. I love to fish, and would do a lot of bass fishing and whatnot on the lake, so I just cruise out, and I was either fishing or skiing or just cruising around on the water.
Do you still have boats in Michigan on the lakes there, or do you have a different boating lifestyle?
Yeah. I have a place up. I have a place up on Burt Lake. Currently have a 27-foot Avalon with twin 400s on it, so that's a nice boat. Also have an 18-foot fishing boat. So those are sitting at the end of my dock, and that's actually an Avalon. We came up with a kind of a bass hybrid type boat here maybe 8 or 10 years ago. Only built 7 of them, and I ended up buying one. I think it's a pretty nice setup, and we might someday start making those again.
Cool. Do you have a family or kids or anything using the boats with you?
I have a girlfriend with a couple kids, so yeah, we enjoy getting down in the water, and I love Burt Lake because it has access to the big water. So frequently we'll head over to Mackinac Island or wherever the boat takes us on a particular day. It's kind of neat when we did the Lake Superior trip here 2 summers ago to leave from Duluth, Minnesota, and end up back right on my dock at Burt Lake. So it is nice to have that access.
Very cool. I'd imagine you do a lot of traveling to different boat shows and visiting dealers and all that kind of stuff. Do you have a favorite place that you like to boat that you've been around the country or even outside the country?
Well, I think Michigan's awesome for boating. You know, there's nothing like it. It's a short season, obviously. So for those 3 months, there's nothing like being in Michigan on either an inland lake or the Great Lakes. I love fresh water. Prior to joining the company, I lived in Los Angeles. Actually, I commuted my first 8 years here. I joined the company in 2002. So from 2002 to 2010, I kind of treated it like a consulting kind of job, and that's what I was doing prior. But I had a boat out there down in the South Bay, Redondo Beach, and would frequently go over to Catalina Island and the city of Avalon, and that's why the company is named Avalon today.
How did you end up at Avalon? So you've been there about 20 years, and you were in consulting before. What brought you into the marine industry?
My father was an attorney over in Saginaw, Michigan. He had a business partner in another deal. They had a bunch of billboard signs in Michigan and Ohio. And back in 1998, Lamar Advertising approached him, bought out the sign company. So it was a pretty nice sum. And my father, being an estate attorney, was nice enough to give myself and my 2 brothers a little early gift, so to speak. So we had this money laying around, and then from 98 to 2000, that transaction was kind of tied up, so we didn't get funded actually until 2000. And in that 2-year period, he came across this boat company out in Elma, which is 30 miles away from Saginaw, and thought it might be a nice investment to roll the windfall from the sign company into a boat company. And the company had been around since 81 and had never lost money until the year we bought it. And so from 2002, I would come back for holiday breaks and whatnot, and came over here a few times to what used to be Playbuoy, and realized I could have a pretty good impact here. I have a manufacturing background, ran a lot of different manufacturing facilities, made coat hangers for 5 years, made boxes for 5 years. And then in consulting, it was primarily high tech. So I did a lot of cell phones and like compact computers. My biggest client was Applied Materials. They make semiconductor equipment. So I was pretty versed in manufacturing and running companies, and always wanted to get my arms around something that I would have an impact at, and be able to reap the windfall if things went well. So I kind of came here with a plan to turn it around and make something of it. So when we bought the company, sales were about $11 million. We had 70 employees, and this year we'll do about 170 and 400 employees.
Wow, that's amazing. On the manufacturing side, with that background, one of the things you guys tout is the vertical integration of Avalon, and what does that mean to the end user, and why is that important?
Well, that's been one of our key strategies, is to keep everything in-house or as much as we can. I have the philosophy is we can do it better than an outside guy, and I would rather not pay them the profit margin, so to speak. So we roll our own tubes, we make all of our own furniture, our own canvas. So we fabricate most of the components here. We still buy some things like fiberglass from the outside, but when it comes in, it's just a piece of fiberglass, and we put all of the trinkets on it, so to speak, like a captain stand or a helm or, a refreshment center. So we do a lot of the actual assembly here and the fabrication, whereas most of the other pontoon guys, they'll outsource a lot of the components, such as furniture. I would rather control it. We control the quality. And for the end user, they know that it's made in-house and we'll stand behind it. So if something goes wrong, we can quickly turn it around, get them a replacement part versus working through other outside entities.
Yeah, now to the Buzzy product that you have coming out, the Waketoon. Congratulations again on winning the Innovation Award over in Minneapolis. It's a great start for that product. Where did that innovation come from? Where did that idea come from? And how did the whole concept come about?
Well, we've had dealers asking for a wake pontoon for quite some time, probably 8 to 10 years, but we've always been so busy just growing our other product line. We never really jumped into it. We were approached by a gentleman who used to work at Lockheed Martin. He was an engineer, and he had done some testing on his own and came up with a concept of different foils and fins and whatnot to create a wave on a pontoon boat. He was using an outboard motor. We quickly realized that from a safety perspective, we would have to use an inboard. It's specifically the Volvo with the forward-facing drive. Kind of keeps the props away from the back of the boat. So it is a very safe way to go in terms of propulsion. And that's one of the key characteristics of generating our wave is that inboard motor, the Volvo Penta. It's a V8, 380 horsepower. And that combined with a lot of modifications to the back of the boat and the pontoons themselves, and a lot of testing. My engineers were going out to the lake a couple times a day, it seemed like, probably, I would say 150 to 200 times, just making modifications until we got it right. And I think the unique thing about this product is that, like all the other wake boats, they take ballast. So they put a bunch of water in bags to weigh down the back of the boat. And we don't have to do that. When you use ballast, it takes time to fill those tanks. And then if you want to run to the dock to grab something, you have to empty them. So that process could be, 10 to 15 minutes filling or, letting the water out. So that's one of the, one of the innovative characteristics of this new product is we use no ballast. And we wanted to merge, wake has really taken off. The younger generation and whatnot, it's become a pretty big sport. There's a lot of boats sold, but we figured if we could combine that with a pontoon boat and all of the benefits of a pontoon boat, meaning primarily for the older generation to walk right off the dock and step onto your boat, that's pretty nice instead of having to get down into a V-hull and to step over and to step down on seats and whatnot. So that combined with the roominess of a pontoon boat and just all of those other benefits just for cruising, we figured we could bring the families closer together, more generations closer together, from grandma and grandpa right down to the young kids who are doing the wake surfing.
Yeah, it's great. One of the other benefits of not having the ballast tanks that's really important around us and freshwater lakes. We're up in the Adirondacks, and clean lakes is a major priority here. Is not really having to worry about transporting invasive species, and I'm sure that's kind of an important point for you guys too, where you are. You called it a price point boat too. So where are you relative to some of the other wake surf fiberglass boats that are out on the market?
Well, a lot of those, they start 110, 120 up to, $190,000. It's a price point boat, but it is close to $100,000 when all is said and done by the time you get the motor. And it comes fully loaded with an extreme tower, high-end stereo system, all the bells and whistles, the cameras, and then the system, obviously, for the wake. So we're close to $100,000 retail right now. But it is, significantly less than most of the other wake boats out there. And you get a lot more for your money because you're getting the aspects of a pontoon as well.
Yeah, it's capitalizing really on the growth of the pontoon segment and the growth of the wake segment and bringing those together. Why do you think the wake surfing in particular has seen such dramatic growth over the couple of years as a sport?
Well, it's just it's a lot of fun. I mean, people can surf and have a continuous wave pushing them across the water. It's just a fun sport to get involved with. I actually have never done it, but I want to. So this summer, I'm going to get behind one of our boats and learn how to wake surf. You're going at slower speeds as well. Most of the time, you're going between 11 and 15 miles an hour. So there's little risk for getting injured. Unlike, if you're barefooting, you're going 45 to 50 miles an hour. And when you fall, you feel it like real quick.
Yeah. Traveling around the boat show and being as involved in the industry, are there any other boating trends that you're seeing for 2020 or over the next couple of years that you think are going to really impact what consumers see in the showrooms?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to more digital. It's really around the electronics and the touch screen and bringing all of that together. So that's just really nice in terms of instead of having all of those analog wires and whatnot. So you can get a lot more features, and it's very user friendly, and it's moving us into the future. Here we are in 2020, and the boats are definitely moving along, and it's just progress every year. We're also seeing more and more on the pontoon side, tri-toons versus just two log pontoons. So right now that's about 60% of our business, and it's just been progressively getting more and more of what we're building are the tri-toons. A lot of that's driven by the motor manufacturers, and now there's 450 Mercuries out there, so a lot of horsepower, and you need that extra pontoon in the middle to support that kind of horsepower and to get up on plane and to have a nice platform to spend the day on. But now pontoons are going fast. A lot of these boats are going 40 to 50 to 60 miles an hour or faster. The twin pontoons have really taken off as well. So we've built quite a few with twin 300s and 350s, 400s. And now we're getting into twin 450s as well.
Is that what you guys had behind the endurance pace boat, and what's the story behind being the first endurance pace boat in the pontoon segment?
Yeah, we were the pace boat for the Roar Offshore event, which was back in October in Fort Myers, and that was the big offshore race boat. So opportunity presented itself to participate, be a sponsor, and then actually use one of our boats to be a pace boat. And it was just a lot of fun out there going around the race course. And at one point I actually passed Miss Geico, and Miss Geico hanging off about, 15, 20 feet off of our stern. So that was pretty cool. See those guys in their cockpit with their helmets on, and we're there in a pontoon boat passing.
That's great. Well, I like to wrap up with just one or two pieces of advice you might give to someone who's just starting to look into getting into boating. We're all kind of working on trying to grow the pie and get more people involved in boating at a younger age. And if anyone comes to you and just has questions or looking for a piece of advice on how to get started in boating, is there any piece of advice you like to give?
Well, I think people should get into it. It's amazing how many people have never been on a boat, but especially if you have a family and a young family, to be able to get out and put the phones behind and just really spend a day out on the water, especially if it's a nice, beautiful day. There's nothing like it to be outdoors. And so it's a great opportunity to get the family together, and they can't run away and go in their bedrooms and shut their door. You're forced to interact and, get back to the basics of communicating face to face and enjoying and having fun and laughing and having a good time. So it's just a great experience overall. Pontoons are really coming around for the younger families as well. It used to be that pontoons were slow and they weren't really that appealing. They weren't easy to trailer, and they didn't have the features that they have today. Now, when I was growing up as a kid, we'd have to take our lawn chairs down, and if we wanted to grill out, we'd take the Weber grill, a bag of charcoal, and put it on the pontoon boat. But nowadays, the boats are very comfortable, they're safe, they're reliable, and I think it's a great way to get into boating.
Great. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the time, and I'm excited, and I hope I can see one of the Waketoons on our lake soon, and get to maybe even go for a ride on it. But I want to thank you for your time. I know you have a lot going on, and I really appreciate it.
Sure. Well, you have a great day, and appreciate the call.
I hope you get a chance to see someone surfing behind a Waketoon on your body of water this summer, or even better, trying it yourself. Until next time, happy boating.